Hey everybody, this is John for MTG Nexus doing a quick deck tech for the Modern Format Playoff. This is the deck we've been working with for since the beginning of the month. Not too much to say about it. I still stand by the 3 copies of Rest in Peace, Smash to Smithereens, and such. The card that I'm still kind of questioning is Searing Blood. I think that's reasonable against the smaller based Stoneforge Mystic decks, the Bant decks, the Zoo decks, etc. I wanted to get four skull cracks into the 75, so I shaved a skewer and a searing blaze. Got Grim Lavamancer into the main deck again, mainly to hedge against the white blue Stoneforge decks as a way to get a threat down on turn 1. You can answer a Stoneforge Mystic without having to resolve it through Force of Negation, which is pretty much their god draw. And beyond that, this was the event that I was grinding for with all these various, 3-2s, 4-1s. We were able to get the 35 Modern Qualifier points to participate in the event this past weekend. Fortunately, it didn't turn out the way I hoped, as kind of the shortness of the video will show at the end, but we did play a couple of interesting matchups, and sometimes I think you can learn as much from losing as you can, if not more so than from winning. So anyways, just want to thank you guys for tuning in, for all your support on the channel. There will definitely be a lot of content moving forward, and I hope you all stay with me through the coming years, as y'all have helped this channel grow over the last now going on 2.5 years. So anyways, let's get into the matches. Hey everybody, this is John for MTG Nexus, covering a couple of games here from the Modern Third Quarter Playoff. This is the same deck list we've been running for the last couple leagues that we went 5-0 and 4-1. I'll be on the play in this game. Hand, bit of a gamble to keep this kind of a hand. You have the 1-drop, then a bunch of 2-drops. This should probably be a mulligan. Ends up being a mulligan, and we have a very similar hand, but we have a bunch of 1-drops. I think I end up keeping this hand because I'm all to 5. You're not going to beat too terribly many decks because Burn still is a critical mass deck, although we can sometimes rely on Goblin Guide to get 4 to 6 damage. I think the putback here is either Searing Blaze or Boros Charm. Guessing I put back the Searing Blaze. Yeah. Just the card with the least. It's the highest risk, highest reward card. Like, our opponent reveals Reality Smasher and plays an Urza's Tower. So we're immediately up against one of our worst matchups, and then we continue to not draw lands. So Urza's got a Chalice on 1 here. We immediately draw another 1-drop, not a land. They play out Matter Shaper. We just kind of sit here in a holding pattern. Then they draw Natural Tron, play a Reality Smasher, and game's pretty much over at this point. There's no way we can race the Smasher, plus not being able to cast 1-mana spells, and they just keep casting more and more guys. We keep finding stuff we can't cast through the Chalice or our lack of lands. This is part of the reason why I would consider among the top tier decks, so things like Eldrazi Tron, Urza, Stoneforge decks, Tron, all those various kind of decks. I honestly consider Eldrazi Tron might be Burn's worst or second worst matchup, depending on how the humans decks are being built at the current time. Obviously, there are decks, corner case decks like Soul Sisters, Bogles, Ad Nauseam that give Burn fits, but I do think among the tier-ish lists played right now, that Eldrazi Tron is probably Burn's worst matchup, and I draw at round 1 of an event we've been grinding for a couple of months. So, anyways, on to sideboarding and game number 2 in the match. So as far as sideboarding, we boarded in the copies of Path to Exile, Skullcrack, and Smash to Smithereens. Smash to Smithereens for Chalice, obviously. We board in Skullcrack for any type of life gain prevention or late gain they might have, like Basilisk Color if they're running card in the Great Creator, or if they just happen to have some Basilisk Colors to side in. And then we also board in Path to Exile because it's our only consistent way to deal with their big dumb idiots. Board out the 3 Searing Blazes. They're pretty dead in the matchup outside of Walking Ballista, a small Walking Ballista, and Matter Shaper, and then Eidolon the Great Revel, just because they have so many spells that are, that scale to 4 mana or more. So more a matter of them having a bad start than us having, key cards. This hand's obviously a mulligan. 5 landers, not good. This hand isn't great, but I think it's the keep. I think we put back one of the lands, probably the uninspiring Vantage, just because we need the redraw if we start to flood out. Go ahead and lead on Rift Bolts. They do the Tron thing. They play Chalice on 1. We have no response because we have no chaliceable spells here. We're looking decent, but then they drop a Thought-Knot Seer on 3. Eye Lightning Helix here to get us a little more of a thing. They take away the Rift Bolt simply because it would allow us to double spell most efficiently. They have a second Thought-Knot Seer, so we go ahead and probably Skull Crack them here at end of turn. We draw another land, which we really couldn't afford to miss on here. Opponent does the thing. We play a Matter Shaper, which leaves us dead on board the following turn. We crack, find the Rift Bolt, find a Helix, which keeps us alive. Opponent swings in, puts us to 3, and then they have the Walking Ballista, and we're dead. So, unfortunate. Even one of our reasonable draws there folds to their Chalice of the Void, plus double Thought-Knots to your hand, and then they had just enough to kill us this turn before we could potentially draw, a final. It would need to be a 2 damage spell here, or Skewer the Critics to kill them from this point. So, could not be bolts, could not be things like Monster Swift Spear or Eidolon or Goblin Guide. So, there's a bunch of things here that could potentially lead us to not winning the game, but we at least had a shot if they wouldn't have had exactly Walking Ballista. Start out an important tournament 0-1. It was a 9-round tournament. Basically, if you go 2, you drop. So, unless you're planning on grinding out to get like 64th place or whatever, because it maxed out 384 players. Anyways, on to round number 2. See if we can get a little bit lucky with a little bit better luck with our matchup and how we're drawing as opposed to our opponent's drawing. So we are back for round number 2. We'll be on the draw this time around, unfortunately. Once again, this hand's a mulligan. We have no lands. This hand's pretty reasonable. I think the mull is defensible. I think the card you pitch here is probably Searing Blaze. And I put back Skewer, I guess, instead. Blaze has the higher upside. Obviously, Eidolon's pretty decent in a lot of spots. Opponent goes Thopter Foundry, so we know we're in for some problems here. We play Eidolon, hoping they don't have the combo. They Galv Blast it, and then they play Sword. We play Eidolon, and then they just do the thing. And at this point, they're getting 3 life a turn. We really can't fight through it. It's probable at this point I should just attack with Eidolon to keep them from doing the thing. And then, they're just going to keep making Thopters. And at this point, they're gaining 3 life a turn and putting a lot of pressure on us. So, we scoop to the turn 3 combo, although really turn 4 before they started doing anything. But they have the Galv Blast, keep our first Eidolon in check. So, we had a decent draw, they had a better draw, and Thopter Sword is a thing. So, it might be a 4-color build, we really can't tell from this particular thing. We did see red mana out of them. Okay, red, black, blue. We didn't see any white, but there's a decent chance they have white, so we'll get on to sideboarding. There's a couple different versions of Urza. I think the cards vary on what hate cards you're expecting to see. If they're a 4-color version, you're going to see Collective Brutality and potentially Weather the Storm in addition to Thopter Foundry. And the 3-color version, you're going to see Timely Reinforcements and possibly Collective Brutality backing up their Thopter Sword combo. So, let us go on to game number 2 and sideboarding. So we're back for sideboarding game number 2. Board out the Grim Lavamancer, the 2 of the Searing Blazes, and 2 Rift Bolts to bring in 2 copies of Smash, 2 copies of Skullcrack, and what's the other card that we brought in here? So brought out 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we boarded out 5, boarded in 6. Doesn't seem quite right, but we boarded in 2 Rest in Peace to try to break up the combo a little bit, although it doesn't completely stop them from gaining life. We brought in 2 Skullcracks and 2 Smashes. You board out most of your copies of Searing Blaze because the only thing you're going to hit of relevance is out of the red builds is Goblin Engineer, which obviously can be relevant. But you also want to leave in some amount of your creature interaction in case they're on Sai and stuff. I don't think Path to Exile is worth killing Sai and Urza, but other people would have to let me know on their testing on that. I have found it not to be quite as necessary because without the combo, I think they're like a turn 4.5, turn 5 kill. So if they have the combo, you're in trouble anyway, and they can usually combo off in response. Obviously, they're doing the setup thing. We did the bolt face thing. They have an Astrolabe, so this kind of tells me they're a little bit choked. They have Collective Brutality, which is rough. We have Smash, which is nice, but we have to deploy the Eidolon here. They have Nature's Claim for it, so obviously they have a lot of anti-burn stuff going on here. Because Nature's Claim can double his life gain as well. Go ahead and run out the Eidolon again. Sure, why not? Eventually they gotta run out of... This is where things get interesting. So our opponents deployed Spellskite into Thopter Foundry, suspecting we might have something like Smash to Smithereens. So they brought in like Collective Brutality, possibly Assassin's Trophy, Nature's Claim. They just have a lot of anti-hate cards. Pass to our turn. So one play here I considered was just smashing this so the Thopter Foundry can do whatever. But noticing our opponents tapped out, I decided to aim the smash at Thopter Foundry, which is the card we want to kill. However, if our opponent wants to redirect it to their Spellskite, it's going to take them 5 damage. And that's no laughing matter here. So I go ahead and attack. Before they can do blocks, I do the smash thing, which gets them down to 2 here. Which locks them out of casting a lot of spells. They have to sacrifice something in order to even be able to cast something else here. We do the thing. They go to 4 here. Try to Skullcrack them in response. They go to 1. They gang block our Eidolon, which is fine. Most here they can gain 1 life. With the sword they can gain 2 life here. Which is rough, but fortunately we have the double spell here, even if they were able to, get another mana or 2. Very close game, very close match. We see, Nature's Claim, Collective Brutality, a lot of hate cards out of them. I think Nature's Claim is a better hate card than something like Timely Reinforcements out of their deck. Depending on obviously how consistent they can get green mana, but if they're bringing in Assassin's Trophy and Nature's Claim, obviously between Astrolabe and stuff, they feel like they have a pretty good chance of filtering their mana despite their basics, and I think for a 4-color deck, they consistently get their mana very well. This is certainly the deck we'll be doing. If you looked at the poll on the channel, it was like 55% of the voters have decided that we will see Urza versus Burn as the next kind of test matchup. That will probably be early next week when I have some more time to do longer testing, and that's certainly something that's going to involve quite a bit of testing given the fact of there's various versions of Urza and stuff out there. So, anywho, on to the deciding game in this match. Will we continue on in the tournament, or will we drop an 0-2 in disgrace? Once again, we sided into a 61 card deck. Probably should have boarded out that third Searing Blaze. Take a look at our opening hand. It's a 1-lander with a Rift Bolt and a Rest in Peace. I think this is a mulligan, most likely. Past self tends to agree with me. This hand's reasonable. Probably put back the basic mountain. Use the Bloodstained Mire to fetch out a non-basic, and we immediately draw another Inspiring Vantage, which is fine. They immediately go Breeding Pool into Thopter Founder plus Mox Opal. Probably trying to play around us having a copy of Eidolon on that turn. And they just play Urza, which creates a 4/4. And then they play Sword of the Meek. And that is game over. So that's a turn 3 kill. That's one of the things that makes this combo prison deck so annoying, is the fact that they have a bunch of different plans. So for those of you who aren't familiar, the reason I scooped here is with Thopter Founder in play and Sword of the Meek, my opponent has infinite mana. They use Urza's ability to tap Sword of the Meek, activate Thopter Founder, sacrificing Sword of the Meek, comes back on a Thopter, continue ad nauseum. They make infinite mana. Well, this is net parity at coming back, but they can also tap each Thopter to make mana. So each round they're making infinite mana, which means at this point, if anything in their deck is blue, they can cast it with Urza. So our opponent theoretically can, if the infinite life, infinite damage combo isn't enough, they can make infinite mana, draw their entire deck, and then be able to answer whatever by casting, Arkham's Astrolabes from their deck, filtering the mana, Assassin's Trophy, or whatever. So this little 3-card combo is infinite mana, infinite life, infinite damage, the following turn, obviously. So very difficult to beat this assembled combo. Only something like Stony Silence or Path to Exile in response to the Sword of the Meek blows it up. But even that, they still have Thopter Sword on turn 3. That's very difficult to beat, even if they have a finite number of things they can sack to it. Or no, actually, once the Sword and Thopter is assembled, that's like however much mana they have, they can gain that much life per turn. And sadly, months of grinding end in, 2 kind of hard-fought matches. Eldrazi Tron obviously is a fairly unfavorable matchup. And I would say Urza Thopter Sword, without a ton of testing against it, is probably we're a slight dog in the matchup. There was a GP they did that on recently. I think Burn went like 10 and 15 against the archetype. So I think a lot of it depends on the build of Urza Thopter Sword, the skill of the pilot, and the fact of different builds bring different tools to the thing. Like the deck I beat at the PPTQ or the MCQ to start out 3-0 was like Esper or Blue-White and had Timely Reinforcements as their main hate card. A little bit slower, even though I had less Skullcracks in that version. And that matchup felt intensely close. So certainly a matchup as Burn players we're going to have to learn moving forward. And with that, I just want to say thank you all for tuning in. It's the same list we've been working off of for a little while. I still wouldn't change too much about it right now. Once I start doing a little bit more testing next week, maybe there'll be some changes. Someone asked about Exquisite Firecraft. Firecraft's there pretty much because of the resurgence of the Stoneblade decks, especially the blue-white varieties. I feel you need some type of way to finish off a game. It was there for Thing in the Ice because it's a way to kill Thing in the Ice through Force of Negation, etc., etc. So, a whole lot of stuff going on with Burn. There'll be a lot of stuff going on with the channel, a lot of announcements moving forward. I want to thank you all for helping the channel grow, supporting us on Patreon. If you want to support the content for as little as $1 a month, I do a sideboard guide updated twice a month on the 1st and 15th for Burn. I'm going to be trying to work on some new ideas for Patreons to thank you guys for your support. And beyond that, I'm going to sign off. Thank you all for tuning into this rather short video of my unfortunate trip to the Quarter 3 Modern Playoff. And as always, thanks for tuning in. This has been John for MTG Nexus. Everybody have a great day.